The moment Disney announced another shakeup within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, rumors began swirling about conflicts, creative differences, and forced cameos. But no one expected the drama behind Deadpool 3, especially not the kind involving Brie Larson, Ryan Reynolds, and the spiraling backlash over Disney's so-called empowerment agenda. This explosive mix of corporate mandates and personal clashes sent shockwaves through Hollywood. If you thought the Marvels underperforming at the box office was bad, wait until you hear how that fiasco almost derailed one of Marvel's most anticipated projects. So, how did a single cameo ignite one of Marvel's biggest behind-the-scenes showdowns? And why, of all people, did Brie Larson become the lightning rod for all the controversy? In the build-up to Deadpool 3, excitement was already sky-high. Fans craved a fresh jolt of adrenaline in an MCU that many felt had become too predictable, too formulaic. The seemingly endless chain of sequels and spin-offs, along with the surprising failures of recent projects, had left viewers cautious but still desperate for something new. Ryan Reynolds, revered for perfectly embodying the wisecracking mercenary, felt a responsibility to deliver a film that stayed true to Deadpool's chaotic heart. After all, the previous 2 installments proved audiences were hungry for an edgier, more unpredictable Marvel hero. Enter Disney, still reeling from the colossal financial setback of the Marvels, which lost an eye-popping $237 million earn. Determined to avoid another flop, the studio set its sights on a safe bet for success: cross-promotion and synergy. Behind closed doors, Disney executives seemed convinced that weaving Captain Marvel into Deadpool's narrative would be the perfect way to tie him into the broader MCU storyline. They believed a cameo from Brie Larson could reinvigorate her character after the poor reception of her most recent outing.
Which famous actor did I kiss at the 2017 Golden Globes? A. Tom Holland. B. Andrew Garfield. C. Tobey Maguire.
Tobey Maguire?
No, Andrew Garfield. In a word?
Yes.
Gorgeous.
Dreamy.
Because I lost the award to Ryan Gosling, who went up in the set, and Garfield and I were like, Garfield's like,
stuck.
if you win, don't kiss your wife, just kiss me. And I was like, done. And then Gosling won, and Garfield was just like, we're just, all right, let's just do it. And just in the deep backwards, you're like, what the hell's happening?
Larson, for her part, was eager to jump aboard. Her public stance was unwavering. Despite the box office disappointment of the Marvels, she believed Captain Marvel's message of empowerment just needed better timing and a better vehicle. For Disney, it was almost too good to pass up. A cameo seemed harmless, just a scene or two, enough to tease Captain Marvel's next big move and signal the MCU's grand plans for potential crossovers. But that neat plan unraveled the moment it reached Reynolds' ears. If you think about it, Deadpool is the very antithesis of squeaky clean Marvel heroes. He's vulgar, he's borderline insane, and he constantly breaks the fourth wall to mock the very studio that employs him. Shoehorning in an idealistic, polished figure like Captain Marvel, especially if her appearance felt more like an ad for upcoming films, was precisely what Reynolds wanted to avoid. According to insider leaks, Larson's cameo was pitched as a chance to reconnect Deadpool 3 with the wider MCU, while also revamping Captain Marvel's standing. Yet Reynolds balked at what he considered blatant marketing slogans disguised as plot. Even more telling, he wasn't alone. Hugh Jackman, stepping back into Wolverine's iconic claws, also raised concerns. He'd already been through the ringer with previous X-Men films that felt constrained by studio meddling, so he had zero interest in letting Disney dilute the raw energy that fans crave in a Deadpool movie. The dynamic duo of Reynolds and Jackman formed a united front, pushing back at every turn. In their eyes, cameo synergy threatened to overshadow what made these characters beloved in the first place. Deadpool's comedic cynicism and Wolverine's brooding grit simply don't mesh well with marketing mandates, especially after recent MCU missteps had left fans skeptical of any forced team-ups. Back at Disney headquarters, tension ran high. The calamitous performance of the Marvels had put executives in a bind. They needed to restore faith in the MCU, but they also knew their well-oiled formula was losing steam. Some within the company believed doubling down on synergy was the only way forward. Others argued that if Deadpool 3 could stand on its own, it might rekindle audience trust. An approach that ironically required Disney to step back and let Reynolds do what he does best: It was, in many ways, the perfect storm. Brie Larson, fresh off a critical drubbing and mindful of her status as one of Disney's more polarizing stars, found herself at the center. She wanted to prove Captain Marvel was still relevant, and for her, a cameo in the irreverent Deadpool franchise could illustrate her character's range. By all accounts, she saw it as an opportunity to remind fans why she was chosen to lead the MCU's next generation in the first place. But to Reynolds, it felt like a short-sighted corporate directive. No different from a cameo that does nothing more than push t-shirts or future spin-offs.
What was the meeting like when you're discussing with Disney the jokes about Disney?
The fun story would be that Disney was just appalled at everything. It was never going to let us do anything. But that's on one hand. On the other hand, money. They had a lot of faith in us to deliver and to self-govern.
Deadpool was, and is, an outlier who thrives on chaos. According to rumors, Reynolds believed that turning Deadpool 3 into a stepping stone for yet another wave of sequels was a betrayal of what fans demanded. A riotous, boundary-pushing spectacle that didn't pull punches. From the outside, it seemed like a mismatch. A cameo from a hero whose recent movie had flopped, crowbarred into a film boasting two beloved characters who fans already couldn't wait to see together. And the friction wasn't exactly subtle. Word started leaking that Brie Larson was furious at Ryan Reynolds, seeing his resistance as an attack on her significance in the MCU. She'd reportedly tried collaborating with the writing team to craft a cameo that felt organic, but with Disney looming over every script change, it quickly devolved into something that felt engineered. As this behind-the-scenes battle intensified, Disney's DEI controversies also flared. For years, fans had noticed a pattern of the studio championing empowerment narratives that felt more like corporate box-checking than genuine storytelling. Brie Larson, often held up as the face of the MCU's new era, ironically became a scapegoat for fans disgruntled with forced diversity efforts. Whether fair or not, viewers conflated Larson's portrayal of Captain Marvel with everything they disliked about Disney's approach. Meanwhile, Ryan Reynolds, known for his typically amicable relationship with the studio, found himself questioning Disney's motives. The fact that even he was publicly hinting dissatisfaction raised eyebrows. If the usually well-mannered Reynolds was at odds with management, you knew tensions were boiling over. Once the conflict spilled onto set, it morphed into a full-blown power struggle. Disney, under immense pressure, wanted to ensure Deadpool 3 performed well financially. Reynolds, supported by Jackman and director Sean Levy, wanted to protect the film's identity. The more Disney insisted on Captain Marvel's cameo, the more Reynolds pushed back. It got so heated that rumors flew about Reynolds threatening to walk away if he didn't have final say on the script. Whether that was just a negotiating tactic or genuine frustration is unclear, but it worked. Ultimately, Disney conceded and Brie Larson's scenes were cut. For Larson, the blow was sharp. She was in desperate need of a win after the Marvels flopped. Her cameo in Deadpool 3 had been a chance to reestablish Captain Marvel's presence in a more edgy, fan-favorite setting.
I kicked my boyfriend out of the house because he said I was taking Super Mario Galaxy too seriously.
Did you ever beat that final level?
Of course I did.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'm no quitter.
What are you playing right now?
Well, I have been playing the new Zelda.
Let's go!
You know. I'm like 400 hours in, and...
Listen, she said she's a gamer, y'all. Capital G, okay?
Being removed altogether left her in a precarious position, with people questioning whether her character would continue carrying the MCU's future. Publicly, Larson remained upbeat, praising Marvel's creative teams and insisting she was far from done with Carol Danvers. Privately, sources claimed she was livid, feeling sidelined and even betrayed by Disney. Yet, if she bore any grudges, she kept them out of the spotlight, at least for now. Once the dust settled, reports indicated that cutting Brie's cameo was a lifesaver for Deadpool 3. Early test screenings, which featured minimal references to the larger MCU, supposedly scored through the roof. Fans applauded the film's irreverent humor, unflinching violence, and refusal to pander. Reynolds and Jackman's chemistry, supercharged by Wolverine finally donning his classic yellow suit, overshadowed any potential cameo hype. By the time the movie hit theaters, under its official title Deadpool and Wolverine, it dominated the global box office with a staggering $1.3 billion haul. Critics praised it for daring to stand apart from the stale formula that had plagued recent Marvel releases. Audiences called it a triumph of creative freedom over corporate meddling. Naturally, success didn't erase the bitterness. Disney's higher-ups had to swallow the fact that they'd been forced into a corner by their own star. Even so, the money rolled in, and the positive press breathed fresh air into a franchise many feared was in decline. Meanwhile, Brie Larson's future in the MCU remains murky. Whispers circulate that she might undergo a transformation into her binary persona, a more powerful iteration of Captain Marvel. It's a narrative pivot that could redeem the character if handled with genuine care. But will audiences be receptive after such a high-profile fiasco? That's the million-dollar question. Or, more accurately, the multi-hundred-million-dollar question for Disney? None of this unfolds in a vacuum. The broader MCU had been on shaky ground after lukewarm receptions to projects like Eternals, Thor, Love and Thunder, and Disney's own live-action remakes, which also struggled under controversies tied to DEI and box ticking. The abrupt downfall of the Marvels was a wake-up call. Large swaths of moviegoers were no longer willing to give Marvel the benefit of the doubt, especially when each installment felt like a puzzle piece rather than a standalone story. So, when Deadpool 3 soared at the box office, it proved to be exactly the course correction fans were begging for. Corporate synergy took a backseat to actual creative vision, and audiences responded by filling theaters. Still, not everyone sees the conflict in such black and white terms. Some argue that cutting Larson from the film only fuels negative narratives about women-led superhero movies, especially when studios don't know how to handle them properly. Others say that forcing Captain Marvel into Deadpool 3 would have been a worse outcome, because it could have led to backlash that overshadowed any progress. For better or worse, the fiasco is a crash course in how not to manage synergy, especially when the synergy in question risks undermining a beloved character's essence.
So, yes, there's jokes in there that I personally cannot believe they let us.
And in
neither did
fairness,
I.
because we were like the kind of good boy students turning in our script every once in a while. And every time we send a script, we were like kind of waiting, and the pushback never came. And it became clear that on this movie, funny wins.
Really, there was one joke, one line that they asked me to take out.
When I was on set, I was like, there's no way that's going to be it.
Yeah, I have a joke about Hugh that I couldn't believe he let me say in the movie. So that passes. I was like, wow, he let that go.
It all raises the question, is this the rebellion Marvel needed to break free from its tired formula? If you step back and look at the bigger picture, you'll see that Ryan Reynolds might have done the MCU a huge favor. By drawing a line in the sand and refusing to let Deadpool become just another marketing vehicle, he forced Disney to acknowledge the need for bold, risk-taking stories. Historically, the Marvel Cinematic Universe thrived because it balanced corporate strategy with fresh storytelling. But over the last few years, that balance seemed lost, replaced by endless spin-offs, rushed sequel setups, and cameo-laden scripts. With Deadpool 3's rebellious spirit injecting new life into the brand, it's possible we're seeing the start of a creative renaissance for Marvel. At the very least, it's a loud and clear message to the higher-ups at Disney. Fans are done with rinse and repeat narratives. They want novelty, they want risk, and they want to believe their favorite heroes aren't just set pieces in a grand corporate blueprint. Reynolds and Jackman proved that leaning into character-driven arcs, complete with edgy jokes, no-holds-barred action, and a refusal to compromise, still resonates on a massive scale. While Disney's broader plans for Phase 5 and Phase 6 remain murky, the success of Deadpool and Wolverine might encourage the studio to let creators off the leash more often. That's the hope anyway. As for Brie Larson, her journey is far from over. She's still one of Marvel's highest profile actors, and it's unlikely Disney will shove Captain Marvel to the sidelines for good. But the days of viewing Captain Marvel as the linchpin for everything might be gone. Unless Marvel rethinks how they position her, perhaps emphasizing depth, flaws, and evolution instead of brand synergy, the audience may remain lukewarm. Larson herself seems determined to press on, even if that means weathering another storm of skepticism. Whether she'll team up with characters who fit her narrative tone or morph into something the MCU has never seen before, fans are waiting for something truly different. In the end, Deadpool 3 stands as a testament to what Marvel can achieve when it gambles on creative integrity. Sure, it might look like a fluke success built on the star power of Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, but the deeper lesson is that audiences flock to authenticity. Comedy, violence, meta-commentary. Those elements soared because they felt organic, not focus grouped or mandated from above. It's a victory that reverberates well beyond one movie. By removing a cameo that could have easily alienated fans, Reynolds and his team delivered a film that not only satisfied viewers, but redefined what an MCU project could be in the post-Endgame era. Which brings us to the final question. Could this drama spark the creative reboot Marvel desperately needs? The answer might hinge on how Disney interprets Deadpool 3's success. If they see it as a fluke, an exception to the rule, then it's back to formulaic releases and cautious storytelling. And we'll likely see more box office disappointments. But if the studio recognizes that a film soared precisely because it didn't play it safe, they may finally give other filmmakers the same freedom. And that could transform the MCU in ways we haven't seen since the early days of Tony Stark and the Avengers. For now, fans can only hope that the powers that be learned a crucial lesson. Authentic storytelling wins hearts, minds, and ticket sales. Sometimes it just takes a foul-mouthed mercenary and a grumpy mutant in a yellow suit to remind them. In the aftermath of this fiery behind-the-scenes battle, fans and critics alike are left to dissect every choice, every rumor, every backstage rant. Brie Larson may well find her second wind if Marvel gives her the right story. Reynolds and Jackman have etched themselves into the annals of superhero cinema by daring to defy the system. And Disney, caught in the middle, must decide if it's ready to embrace a new era, one where synergy bows to creativity, not the other way around. As the curtains close on Deadpool and Wolverine's monumental run, one thing's certain: the old rules no longer apply, and it's about time Marvel started writing new ones.